Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Truth Wanted. I'm your host for tonight, Objectively Dan, and joining me today is someone who's been on this program before. It's been about a year since you've been on. It's ExXtian Erin. Erin, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yes, I think it's been about a year, right?
I think so, right about that, yeah.
Yeah, right about a year since you were on last time, so welcome back to the program. Really excited to have you back on, and we got a special announcement in regards to that a little bit later. But for now, Erin, what's been happening? What's been happening since a year ago from
What's been happening?
however it's been? Yeah.
So this last year, last summer, I did like a lot of interviews because I had basically just come out as an atheist. And then over this last year, I've got myself involved in a bunch of different communities, tried to get as many conversations going as I could. I joined a lot of open conversation, open streams. I've done a couple of, I did do a couple other call-in type things before, kind of impromptu, basically trying to immerse myself in the conversation as much as possible in as many different areas as I could. I definitely tried to focus in on learning some of the other kind of traditions of Christianity rather than just the one that I grew up in, because I did talk about last time that I grew up in kind of a fundamentalist Pentecostal background. So I spent a lot of time trying to understand some of the other traditions of Christianity, because I think it's important to be able to have those conversations with anybody, not just the people that I grew up with. So
Yes,
I spent a lot of time getting to know a lot of people, and I've made some really good friends. And it's a year later, and I'm still an atheist, so nobody's convinced me.
Still an atheist.
Yeah.
Well, that tends to happen, I think. But speaking of those call-in things, this is one of those call-in things, folks. This is Truth Wanted. This is a live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time. So if you're listening to a recording of this, come check out the live broadcast. If you're watching this live, hey, we got some open lines right now, and we definitely want to come talk to you. So please come give us a call at the number below on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, or you can find it on this show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts as well. So talking to Erin, ExXtian Erin. Don't get confused by the name. I'm sure there's some people who see the two X's in your name, and they're like, is it ExXtian Erin? You know, like how you say that, but yeah, that's just kind of a shortening for Christian for those who don't know the X part, right?
Yeah, it's almost like conversation starter at this point. People be like, what the heck? How do you say your name? And to me, I kind of read it in my head as like ExXtian Erin, but it just, like you said, it just means ExXtian Erin. And I recently found out that the T may not be necessary, but I'm not going to change it. I don't care.
I did. I think I did notice that too, actually, the first time I saw it, because I'm used to seeing it as XIAN. Yeah. I think you're one of the only people I've seen with the T in it, but yeah, the message gets across just fine. It's branding at this point. You can't really change it, right?
It's too late. I don't care.
Yeah, it's too late for that. One thing I admired about you, Erin, when you first were really posting stuff on the scene a little over a year ago, you were posting stuff like every single day. You still post quite a bit on social media, and I only post on Twitter pretty much, and even then I do not post every day, and I kind of wish I did. And I always try to think of stuff. Sometimes I just post pictures I find that are interesting and stuff, but you're out there all the time doing that. How do you do that? Do you just find things to post, or what's that process like?
I would call it almost like an open stream to my brain and my thoughts that I have. So I had deconverted. I had identified myself as an atheist in 2019, and I started posting on Twitter in 2020. But one thing that I realized really quickly was that even after you leave a religion or leave any kind of high control group, there's still a lot of deconstructing to do. So I feel like, especially that first year, and it's less so now, but it continues to happen, that almost on a daily basis, there'd be some new thing that would come to me that I would realize that that's messed up, or I need to reconsider this. So I basically just made it a public thing where I would have my thoughts out loud to other people. And I think the reason why people found my page is because I was giving some language and some thought to what other people were also working through at the same time. So I've never really shied away from maybe being a little more controversial or maybe being a little bit like rude at some point. But to me, I've tried to be true to my experience and trying to be like really get the language right in my experience growing up in that kind of environment and the ongoing effects it's had on my life even as an adult. So I'm older now, I'm married, I've got 2 kids, and I still find myself deconstructing all these, months and months later after I've even realized I had lost my faith. So it's a continual thing. So I think I do post a little bit less these days, but it has nothing to do with the fact that I'm not pulling away from it. I've just been quite busy with my kids lately.
I gotcha. Maybe you experienced this too. In fact, I think we've talked about this, but this, like as soon as you go through this deconversion process, whatever you want to describe it as, there's almost like this firebrand atheism that's really easy to get into. I know it was for me a little bit. I used to check like r/atheism every day. I was really looking at that stuff, and just because I don't know if it was the anger or if it was just like the realization or just like, everything kind of finally clicking and making sense. And I wanted to like share that with everybody. But there was definitely that phase where I was like way more, I want to say active because I'm pretty active now, but just more, I don't know. I was willing to insert it into more conversations in my daily life than I did now, I guess. I don't know, but that seems to be a common thing that happens with people. Did you kind of have that phase as well?
I did, and I think some parts of me kind of was denied that I was like an angry atheist. And I even last year, I would say, I think I called myself an angry deconstructionist, or maybe I was flailing because there's so many emotions that come about it. And I mean, the anger is really legitimate. And so I think it's a valid part of coming away from something like that. And it's not that I'm like less angry now. I feel like I've processed it a little bit more now. And so I can come at it with a little bit more like nuance. And especially over all the conversations I've had over this last year, I'm not as quick to jump on somebody if they say something like, oh, that's a logical fallacy or whatever. I think I'm a little bit more patient with that. And I can't forget the fact that like, since I deconverted, I've gone to therapy and I've actually processed a lot of the trauma I was experiencing too. I think that's one thing that maybe goes unrecognized when people make a meme out of angry atheists, is actually how much hurt and trauma and frustration there genuinely is. It's not just people on the internet necessarily just trying to pick a fight with somebody. There is a lot of things that need to be processed, and sometimes it just happens online. So
yeah, and that's tricky too, because there is a stereotype from Christians that talk about atheists in that, the reason why they are the way they are is because the church failed them. The church hurt them in some sort of way. And that's definitely true for a lot of people. That's definitely true. But I've also met people where, it was really just more of a distancing, and they realized upon later reflection, like, this is why this is, and this makes sense now. I don't know if I would say that I've been traumatized by my experiences, maybe, but I definitely have been emotionally affected by some of my experiences. Less to do more so with like what I believe to be malicious actors, but just people acting within an ideology and a framework that causes them to behave and respond in ways that I find to be absolutely deplorable now, or just something I don't want to be around. Like I bring this up quite a bit, but my casual acceptance and promotion of homophobia. I grew up in a homophobic place of the world, and like just the casual use of the F word and use of that kind of language just didn't mean anything to me. And I didn't realize I was perpetuating a larger system there. And in some ways that makes me a victim because I didn't know, but that doesn't also mean that I'm not still contributing to other people's harm in that. So it's complicated. It's complicated. And it definitely takes time to kind of deconstruct all of that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing I've realized since my leaving of religion is that not everybody is traumatized by it. So you have to be thoughtful in how you have these conversations online, because one thing I've learned in the last year is to come at it with a little bit more openness to hearing what other people's experiences were like. There's people in the religion and out who have had good experiences and bad experience. And the most important thing is to actually be open to hear what they're actually saying about it. And you're always going to make more progress with somebody when you've shared, when you've built some rapport and get to know somebody. Just arguing for the sake of arguing, maybe there's a few people who are watching who see that, but it's not always as productive as getting to know people and putting some time in with it.
Yeah. And for me too, it's like, well, now I have the rest of my life to be angry. I don't have to spend it all in one day, because it's not like the whole world is going to change the way I think in a day. It's just not going to happen. So I don't know, that gives me a sense of patience in a way, but doesn't mean that it's not frustrating to have those conversations sometimes, because it's like, look, I've been through this whole journey, and you're coming to this to me is like, this is your first time talking about this stuff. There's a little bit of that sometimes that I find to be frustrating. But speaking of frustrating, there is a very topical and at the same time not topical thing that's been happening in the news that I think we both agreed we wanted to talk about tentatively for this episode. And that is the recent discoveries of the mass graves within some of the Indigenous schools within Canada. Now, I didn't really know much about this until about a year ago when I heard, I believe it was a Behind the Bastards podcast episode on some of these schools that work in Canada that were mostly run by the Catholic Church and displaced Native communities and put them into these, they went to these schools and unfortunately hid a lot of, the deaths that happened around these areas. And, it seems from what I learned from that was that this has never been a question of, do these exist, but how many?
Yeah. Which
we're continuing to discover. These schools ended up closing, the last ones in the 1990s, which
1996.
is crazy to think about, but it's been still going on. And there's more being found recently that people are really upset about. And what is there to be but outraged at this, right?
Yeah, definitely. So we talked earlier, I did want to bring it up a little bit. I'm Canadian. And yesterday was July 1st, which is our Canada Day, which is kind of like your July 4th. And there was quite a big movement for people to choose to spend their time differently yesterday rather than going to parades and that sort of thing, to maybe take some time to recognize the horror that the Indigenous community is going through right now. Like you said, Dan, there's a history of residential schools, they're called them, but they weren't schools. They were a place that the government and the Catholic Church, they took a lot of the Native or Indigenous children away from their families and put them into these residential schools where they lived full time, basically trying to teach them how to not be Indigenous anymore. And unfortunately, they were not cared for there, and thousands of children went missing during that time. And one of the things that the Indigenous community has said is they've been trying to tell us for years that they've known that these people were missing for years and years, but not a lot of people were listening. But recently it's come to light that through radar detection and that sort of thing, that they have discovered bodies basically around and under the residential schools. And right now we're up to 1,500, and we've only gone through, I think, 7 out of 100, and I'll get the number wrong, but I think it's 130 something schools around Canada. So yesterday we joined in on that action, and we didn't go to any parades, and we wore our orange shirt, which is the color that honors that movement going on here. So it's a really tough one, and it hits really close to home. I live really close to this area. I have friends in the community, and it breaks my heart. And it's just overall, it's one of those things that we need to talk about, and we need to hear about the experiences that these communities have gone through. It's been really heartbreaking.
Yeah, the online atheist movement, as I've seen it, and this is from a subjective me perspective, in the past decade has intersected more with progressive politics and having those kinds of discussions. And this is a fantastic example of one of those intersections, which is Christianity and its colonialism and its impact on the world, and how we're addressing it today, and how we're dealing with the consequences of that. There's been a long and marked history of Christians coming into other people's spaces, telling them this isn't the way you need to do things. You need to do things our way. And not only erasing the natural landscape of a people's culture, but also degrading it. And at worst, having the bodies of children dug underneath a school. Like, this is a very visceral example of what has been a long, hundreds of years spanning thing that I don't think we have fully dealt with the ramifications of, which is why this is so shocking to people. I mean, the fact I didn't know about this. I didn't know about this until like a year ago.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to people every day who haven't heard about this until recently. So what does that say about what I know about the full impact and the scale of what Christian colonialism has done on the world, let alone just the United States or Canada?
Yeah. It is really troubling to see how many people aren't aware of like our history. And I think a lot of people are really shocked that this thing happened in Canada. But I think I was really fortunate that I had a really fantastic history teacher in high school. I've known about this, but even myself, I've made efforts to learn about this throughout my life. Even I don't know everything yet, and I'm doing my best to learn as much as I can. But running into so many people who have no idea. We've even talked to people who didn't realize that there was a connection here. Why would anybody consider taking Canada Day and not celebrating it in the way that we normally have? And why should we honor this community during like what we would have as normally as a national holiday? You go to parades, you do these things. And one of the best quotes that I'd heard yesterday was that, when somebody that and your neighbors are having a funeral, you don't throw a party. And that's really kind of the feel that I think has been going on with myself and with many people I know, that we're trying to do our best as people who are not maybe directly in the community, but maybe are just doing our best to honor them as much as we can and to educate ourselves. There's a lot there that we aren't aware of, and it's up to us to learn and to educate ourselves and to make better decisions going forward, and to work towards ending the different ways that the community is still being treated unfairly.
Absolutely. The recent news, if anything, has just reinforced this idea in my mind that Christianity as a net good, which is an argument that's sometimes put out there, that even, there's been bad things that have happened in the past, that overall Christianity is helpful to people. I think the families of those children would disagree.
Yeah.
And it's hard people to confront them with this thought, because their defenses go up and say, well, this wasn't me. This wasn't my church. This wasn't my community that perpetuated these acts. And I can only say, no, but it's your ideology that did. It's the history of your ideas that brought to that point. And just because they look a little bit different today doesn't mean that a little bit of that is still there in one way or another. And you see that in multiple instances and in multiple ways, in the idea that America is supposed to be a Christian nation, in this idea that you can't be a good person without believing in God, or that the Bible should be the standard moral framework by which every citizen should be measured and judged. And it becomes more pathetic every day to me, because how many times do we have to see the hypocrisy? Do we have to see the absolute savagery that people who supposedly believe the same things that you and I once did, if not more fervently so, were able to commit just on a daily basis? And it's just really heartbreaking to see. And I really wish more of my Christian friends would see it from the perspective that we do, as people who once believed, and see that, like, I look at this as shameful, but also a relief that I don't have to, tie myself to that anymore, that I'm trying to at least make myself better, if anything. Right.
Yeah, it's really wild. In my experience with this too, is that so much of the culture, so growing up in a Christian community, it was really normal to just kind of almost flippantly discuss their spiritualism and their culture as like something to do demonic, and like viewing it under that Christian framework. And I don't think there's enough awareness yet about the repercussions of what that caused in their community to have that negative connotation put on their entire culture. And one of the biggest things I think is important for us to remember is like, it didn't happen all that long ago. It's still in the living memory of a lot of people. We're only, 1 to 2, sometimes 3 generations past these, almost a clear erasure of an entire culture. So there's a really beautiful movement coming back of people who are trying to kind of reconstruct that. Even people who don't have their connection with their history there, they're doing their best to kind of reconstruct that and get reconnected into that. And I want to support that as much as I can, because it's a really beautiful thing that I think a lot of people have no idea about. So I think it's something that I will continue to talk about. Yeah.
And I also want to challenge myself to continue to learn more and try to, be a better human, because I know that even just being the person that I am, being a straight white guy, that has given me and afforded me all the privileges with that background has given me, along with all the other labels you can apply to me, right? Like, I'm still constantly deconstructing what that means for myself and how I can be a better person in that regard. So I always want to be better. I guess that's what it is. I always want to be better. And news like this just really reminds me of how much we all have to learn. It's tragic, but I would like to move on if we can, unless some folks want to call in about it tonight, and we will be happy to talk to you guys. But we do have a couple of callers on the line that we want to get to now. Erin, are you ready to talk to some folks?
I am. Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do it. But before we get to that, we do want to give a special shout out to the patron of the week, like we always do. Every single week, we give a shout out to somebody who donates on patreon.com/truthwanted. We want to thank everybody that donates to the Patreon, but we want to give a special shout out every week. And this week's patron of the week is Katie Stewart. Katie, thank you so much for donating to the show. Katie is awesome. And Katie helps make this show happen. So thanks, Katie, for doing that. Appreciate you. And she's supposed to be off tonight, but I heard that she's in the chat. So thanks, Katie, for donating. That's really awesome. I didn't know that was going to be the one today. Well, perfect. Well, Erin, are you ready to get to some calls now?
I am. Yep.
All right.
Got a lot of good ones.
We got a couple good ones. You know what, Erin? You have access to our call-in studio. Is there one you'd like to pick?
I was right away looking at Joshua.
Okay, go for it.
So let's maybe take a look at that.
Hit that talk button.
Hi, Joshua.
Hi, Joshua. You're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hey, not too much. Quick question, Dan. Were you with on one of Anthony Magnabosco's videos?
Yes, that was me. That was me about over 5 years ago now, I think. Yeah.
What a transition,
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Talk about listen to your talk about the tragedy that's happening in Canada right now. I totally agree. It's I was wondering how far a group will actually go to institutionalize a population, and it really does show, that they really have no bounds. And is it more cultural genocide or unification to a population's benefit,
Yeah, I mean, I think every group of human beings who wrap their identity around something is capable of doing that. I think especially so though, if you think that what you're doing is by the grace of God. You know, like what gives you more permission than that?
Yeah.
Right.
And also doing it by
there's
force
unlimited
too.
power in that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Well,
go ahead, Joshua.
So, yeah, sorry. My question really is, how do you truly recover from religion? I find myself, you know, I'm an atheist now, but I was raised as a Roman Catholic. And there's just like, I can't shake this feeling sometimes that I have to pray in order to feel better about myself. And I don't, as much as I don't believe in a God, or, you know, I could say it out loud, I could say it to a bunch of different people, but at the same time, there's a sinking feeling inside of me that I have to appease some higher power. You know, like, do you feel like sometimes your only way out is to converse with the Almighty?
Yeah, you know, in the first year or two of my deconstruction, yes, definitely prayer was still like a coping mechanism that kind of came up every once in a while. And I've heard that's pretty common for a lot of people who go through that deconstruction. And it's exactly what it is. It's a coping mechanism. It's something that I've been taught since I was a kid, a way for me to deal with my problems. When I was stressed out and something was happening, you give it up to God, right? Like that's literally like that's like a Veggie Tales kind of Christianity that at least I was given. So I think that's you know, for me now, not something that really bothers me at all. It's not something that goes through my thought process. But I do know other people who years later who still have those thoughts every once in a while. For me, honestly, the best thing was being around so many atheists and talking it out every time it was happening, or even just going through my thought process. Being surrounded by that community has been really, really helpful. And you know, being lucky that I get to talk
right now is.
Yeah, you know, it's hard, right? I'm lucky because I get to talk to the great folks at the atheist community of Austin, who could really help me with that when I really needed it. And that's a privilege in itself that a lot of atheists just really don't have. We don't have that sense of community, which is why you see such an online presence of atheists, because they're trying to look for other people who think and feel just like they do. My advice would be, if you're not looking into resources like recovering from religion, then look for other people you can find at least community with to at least talk about, because it does go away for most people. Those thoughts are intrusive ones, but ultimately are only going to give you the harm that you give them the power to, right? So that's my take on it. I want to hear Erin's thoughts though, because Erin, you're a bit closer to me than I am on this. So
yeah, I'm like 2 years out right now of deconverting. So, and I want to like emphasize that I went through this as well. And I would say probably about 6 to the 9 month range is when I still felt like that. I still felt compelled to pray, especially under times of stress. And I felt eventually you can kind of look at it. Why is it only when I'm under times of stress that I feel like I need to pray like that? And for me, it really took some time of like learning that maybe that was a bit of a trigger response for me. So when I'm unsettled, it's actually something that was maybe kind of like trained into me. There's an expression, I think it goes like the neurons that fire together, wire together. So it become a very learned response for me to pray when I was stressed. And so learning other strategies to put in place, like instead of praying, for myself, I'll just like, saying things to myself, like affirming myself, be like, hey, you've got this, or, you know, you don't believe this stuff anymore. And everything that you've been through so far, you did it yourself. So it means you've got this, like, just, you know, almost talking yourself up. One time I referred it to as like praying to yourself. I know Christians will have a field day with that, but using the same process of like, I'm stressed and I need to talk to something. I'm going to talk to myself right now and tell myself that I can handle this. And it was just a process of doing that enough times. And it was like a few months later. It doesn't take very long for you to relearn something or learn a new action. So for me, I very much attribute that need to pray with like a trauma response or like a triggering response. So it's something that takes time, and you just got to be patient with yourself and that sinking feeling. I mean, for myself, I did have some trauma going on with my religious experience, and going to some counseling really helped with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erin. That does sound Very helpful. I mean, I think I may have to just reinforce the idea that it is just me talking to myself and trying to de-stress the situation and trying to get out of those trigger phases.
And just be easy on yourself.
One more quick question.
Go for it.
It's more philosophical, but I figure maybe it's just a topic that we can football around. But is religion intrinsic to the human experience? I know that maybe we don't have to answer it tonight, but I figure maybe is it that humans need religion, or is it? I don't know the idea. There's so many different religions. There's so many different believers, and even I feel as atheists, we still believe in an idea, even though it's not God, you know. But it's still something that's higher than ourselves.
Couple things there. You know, when you use the word religion, that can mean a lot of different things to different people. And when you say the word that atheist
I should clarify.
Using atheists too, saying that we believe in something. I mean, that I think most atheists watching this will probably might even disagree with that. I've met so many atheists that
more of what does Matt Dillahunty call it? It's more of like the humanitarian aspect. You know, it's not like, you know, just believing in something greater than yourself, and it's not really a God or a religion or anything like that. But it's believing in a something that's greater than yourself, you know, and contributing.
You might be describing humanism, maybe, right? You might be describing a kind of
humanism. Yes, that's the word for it. Yeah,
and so that can be separately defined as an ideology, separate from how we might philosophically define atheism. Now, I'm not going to get talking to what atheist means, right?
Yeah, because
that's the most annoying thing in the world that people talk about all the time. Okay, it means whatever you want it to mean, honestly, at the end of the day, but. Specifically,
I hate generalizing atheism as well, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a problem too, because while, you know, it is a statistical fact that most atheists in the United States, you know, think and feel similarly on most political issues, we're still not a unified whole, and still not a complete ideology in itself. That's something that all atheists follow. You know, really, it's just a word used as a descriptor that you may or may not agree with and could apply to yourself. It's a very deconstructed label that doesn't have the same kind of history.
I feel like there's a fallacy of logic when it comes to generalizing a group of people. I always call it like a they-them fallacy, where you say like, oh, they always say this, or they believe that. You know, I feel like people toss that around so much, even with like Republicans and Democrats, or even you know, Catholics and atheists. You know, it's like this group of people that that none of them actually believe in the same thing, but you can generalize it and you can throw that label on them. You know, I totally get that.
Yeah, I'm gonna meet you here for just a second here, and because we're probably gonna wrap up this call, but I think I want to answer your second question too, which was, do we need religion? Which is really interesting, because I don't know, Erin. You and I would say that we don't have a religion, and I think that we're living just fine. But there are other people that say we do have a religion. I mean, we are doing a production for the atheist community of Austin, which some people describe as a church. You know, like, I don't know, like, but we don't have to be doing that either. I guess. Do people need like things to believe in? Do they need like frameworks? Maybe. If you want to define religion that broadly. Possibly so, but do we need like a belief in God? Do we need a system of theology? I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either, and I mean, maybe some people do more than others. I think more than anything, people need people. They need support. I think like we're obviously very like social species. I think it is good to be a part of groups and good to be a part of something that is bigger than yourself. That doesn't necessarily mean something supernatural or something cosmic or anything like that. Even joining a baseball team can give you that sense of community and that sense of purpose. So I don't think it's a universal experience that everybody feels like they don't fall into nihilism like immediately if they don't think they have an ultimate purpose. But I definitely think people need people, and isolation isn't typically a good thing for anybody. So some people find it in church communities. I personally prefer not being a part of the church community because I felt like it was a very shallow kind of community. I'd rather have different kind of communities where we genuinely kind of connect on something. As far as like, is it there? You kind of brought up the question of like internal and external kind of religiosity. And like, I think that's a whole different question. So I think
Right.
we just kind of will answer the external religiosity for now. Community is everything, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, community is important, and if you find purpose in groups, in interactions, I think most people have a sense of want for that. So humans as we exist today, yeah, I think that's true. But if it doesn't have to be a God belief,
No.
it doesn't have to be a blind following of a specific tenet of something.
And there's a whole spectrum of different kind of personalities. Some people need more more community than others. Some people they just need a few close friends and they feel like they're quite satisfied in life. Other people need to have a larger group of friends and a larger like circulation of activities that they do. So it's definitely not a one shoe fits all kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I keep bringing this up, but these terms can be so differently defined. I mean, you can define our sense of following the rule of law, our idea of how we organize legal systems in this country. Some people could say that that's a religion because you can really just do what you want. It's just a law book saying that you can or can't, or a system, an institution that's stopping you back. You just have to have belief in that institution in order for it to have any power. There's all kinds of weird places you can go when you play with these words, but ultimately, do I need Christianity? No. I don't think so. Most breakaways from that, I don't think I need that either. So that's what I missed at the end of the day. But Joshua, thank you for calling in with that call. Very interesting questions there. And I hope you do find community and stuff for people to talk to you about the prayer thing too, because I'm sure some people in the chat can also relate to that. So excellent. Any other thoughts on that, Erin, before we go to the next caller here?
Calling, Joshua.
Yeah. We got some other people calling in. I want you to, you want to pick another one, Erin? Let you pick another one. Because I'm looking at these. There's a lot of different routes we can take here.
There's a lot of different ones. Do you have any favorites?
Stair.
We've got a few people on the line for quite a while here.
Yeah, I want to talk to Stair calling in from QC. What is QC? Is that Quebec?
Quebec?
What is that?
That's Canadian.
Canada.
Okay.
Hello. Hey, Stair, what's going on?
Hey, not too much. How are you doing, Dan and Erin?
We're doing good. Good. Just
fellow Canadian.
That's right. So we got the Canucks on tonight. So
just chilling out here in East Central Canada.
Love it. Good stuff. How can we help you?
Well, what I wanted to talk to you about is, I guess, kind of the odd experience of having an irrational belief that I know is an irrational belief, but that also seems to get supported by all evidence that I actually look for.
Okay. I'm interested.
Okay,
I'm listening.
So
let's hear it.
Here's the background on this. So I have had a superstition since I was in my teens that if I went to a wedding, I would get sick. The reason I have this superstition is that the first wedding I ever attended, on like the same weekend that I attended that wedding, I learned, I didn't contract it, but I learned that I have like basically a life-changing chronic illness that I've had to live with ever since. So that made me kind of nervous about going to another wedding. And I knew it was like a superstitious kind of thing, but I was like, I hope history doesn't repeat itself. And then I went to another wedding and I also got super, super sick. And I was like, oh, that's really strange. There's no mechanism by which this can be happening, but seems to keep happening. Probably not true. So then I went to a couple of years later, more years had gone by, and I went to my brother's wedding, and then I got catastrophically sick after that one. So now I'm kind of in this weird position of being I have this superstition not to attend weddings or I'll get really sick. And every time I've attended a wedding, I actually have gotten really sick. But now there's no mechanism by which these things are really related. I know there's no it's not like I was ever unkind to an old lady in the night and now all of my furniture, all of my servants have turned into furniture.
Stair, you said that you were diagnosed with a chronic illness. I can relate to that. I have a chronic illness as well. Are there other situations in which you get this sick that are not wedding related?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what it is, right? I'm probably correlating things because they're items of different significance. And yeah, there have been other non-wedding related times when I've gotten sick. So that's fair also.
Yeah.
Is it also like related to crowds and big events and long days and maybe being outside for a long time? Like, are there other things around those things that could also be kind of related to that? I'm like speaking from somebody who has a chronic illness who gets sick at like big events all the time.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. That makes sense. But I haven't noticed much of a correlation with like other events, like non-wedding family gatherings or like going to concerts, things like that. I haven't noticed. It's not really like just going out and doing, crowd things that causes it.
I think
but I guess
it's one of those things, weddings are one of those things where for most people you can count on two hands, like the number you go to in your lifetime, usually, so it's like, I think that probably plays a part in it too, just because you probably don't go to them super often, or maybe you do, I don't know. But this is like, and this is, I am not demeaning you in any way when I say this, because I know that you're like logically thinking through this and thinking that this probably isn't right, but like, this is seriously how anti-vaxxers come to their conclusions. Really, it is. It's like how, because you only get a vaccine like once a year or so, and when it happens, you get sick afterwards. Like, the vaccine is the real villain here. Like that. This is like so common for people. It is crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So I guess that's kind of what I wanted to highlight too, right? Is that again, I know this is an irrational belief, and it probably will be no more than like an excuse for me to get out of a wedding that I don't want to go to at some point in the future. Like, probably won't really stop me from doing something that I actually wanted to do. But I think it's kind of like an interesting position to be in, right? Because it also kind of highlights where you can find yourself ending up when you have a theory that you test and like limited results seem to go one way, even though shouldn't have been. Yeah. So like, so I've been to like, like 4 or 5 weddings or something like that. And all of them have had this like, yep, got super sick, can't go back to a wedding thing. But like, I'm not like,
have you ever tried to say, like, have you ever tried not going to the wedding? Have you ever said no to somebody? I can't make it that day, and test to see if you actually still get sick because somebody who's getting married that day.
I did actually. I did I quote unquote test that. I also had the excuse of I'd recently moved, so I didn't want to go back to my old city to attend a wedding there. And I was fine. I didn't get sick.
Yeah, there's
really wedding invitations is fine.
I could see easily how like the causation correlation thing can kind of be there, and I could totally relate as somebody who has a chronic illness and like seems to constantly get sick at the same time. I went through an experience kind of similar to this, where I always thought that whenever we planned a vacation, like my whole life, whenever we planned a vacation, I always got sick the day before the vacation and we couldn't go. And I thought for quite a long time that like I had some sort of like, bad omen. I was a Christian, so maybe I thought like there's something that going on that like caused me to ruin my family vacations constantly. But then later on, I kind of realized that for me, I don't know about you, but for me, it's the stress leading up to it. For me, I like getting yourself ready and like planning on going away and being out of your normal circumstance. I mean, sometimes weddings kind of suck. Going to weddings, they're long days. It can be tough. It can be triggering for some people. I think there's a lot of other things that maybe could be going on there, but I can totally see where your mind could go from like, I can't go to weddings because weddings make me sick.
This reminds me of, I was trying to look up the name of it, and I think this is it. It's Zarat, which is a leprosy punishment in Jewish belief. And what they would do, from my understanding, is they would kill 2 birds and they would use the blood of one of the birds and put it up in their home to purify their home, which was supposed to help with this purification. And like saying that out loud sounds absolutely crazy, but like somebody did that one time and they felt better, and that's why people do it even probably to this day, right? It's like one of those things where just that little anecdotal evidence can really be a factor in people's thinking. And like, yeah, I'm definitely a victim of that myself. I'm trying to think of examples of that recently. I couldn't think of any, but I know it's happened to me in the past. I know I've had like weird little instances of things happening and just learn not to trust it. But anyway, yeah, I'm glad you're thinking rationally about it, though. I'm glad you're not completely banning yourself from weddings, maybe only using it as an excuse occasionally, right? So
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Yeah, thanks for calling,
I think
Stair.
we're going to let you go here. We've got a few more calls on the line.
Yeah, we got quite a few people wanting to talk to us today, which is awesome. I've seen some UFO stuff in here. We got some interesting things. Let's see.
I think you should pick. I don't know.
Gosh, there's so many here. We got a call from Norway. Let's talk to Ulf from Norway, who wants to talk to us about chiropractors. Was it Ulf? Oh, yeah, there it is. Ulf, what's going on, Ulf?
It's going on. Yes, it is.
Are we saying your name properly?
Yeah, I want to know that too.
More or less. Hi, Dan, and hi, Erin.
Hi.
Hi, what's up?
So it's always fun. I have like an internet name which I use, which is Debidu or Debs, which is more easily pronounced by American-speaking or English-speaking people. But I prefer that people use my given name because it's so funny to watch people have different takes on it.
I'm sure it is. So what you want to talk to us about?
Now, as I said in the call screen, it's mostly chiropractic and like pseudoscience. And it's, I was aware of a few years ago, I have a chronic back illness, which is debilitating. I'm on disability and I'm hardly able to move. And everybody tells me, go to the chiropractor. And I started to check out and see what it really is. And in Norway, at least, you're not able to take a degree in chiropractic, and it isn't even recognized as a medical science in Norway. You have to go out of the country.
That checks out. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people in the United States that really take the chiropractic stuff, and I know other atheists that will do it too. But really, anybody who should call themselves a skeptic should be really wary of chiropractors, especially if you look at the history of the movement. It might be David Daniel Palmer. I always forget the two. Called himself a spiritualist. And he first got the idea, according to him, from chiropractic, from the spirit world.
That originated it, yeah.
Yeah. There's no real hard science behind anything that he developed. It was definitely a lot of just taking from random things and also just him trying stuff out. In the United States, chiropractic, you cannot be a chiropractor. Medical, it's not something that a medical school that you go to for. You go to a chiropractor school for. So you can be a licensed chiropractor in each state. It varies. It's like a
PhD it's like a PhD in theology.
Yeah, if you go to a chiropractor and they call themselves doctor, there's a chance that they didn't actually go to a medical school. There's a chance they got it from somewhere else. Not saying that there aren't chiropractors who aren't licensed physicians and stuff, right? But that's going to be the case for a lot of these folks. So I don't doubt that if you go to a chiropractor, it makes you feel good. I don't doubt that, or that there's some sort of therapeutic healing, and I use that term loosely, just in the sense of somebody touching you and making you feel good. But the claims of chiropractors that you often hear are about adjustments and what they can do for you. They can cure autism, they can cure ADHD, they can help with disruptions from the birth canal when everybody is born. There's all kinds of just bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Yeah. It's really bad.
If I may, the funny thing is in Norway, where medical stuff is quite strict. You can call it conservative.
Yeah.
And as I said, I struggle with my back. And I was I've been going to chiropractors sometimes, and it just didn't make me feel any better. But when it was 5 years ago, my neighbor told me that, when she had her last son, I think it was, the chiropractor locally here, it's a tiny town with 2,000 people. It's fucking tiny. But he told me that, she told me that her son was cured of colic. I'm like, as far as I know, colic isn't something you can be cured by being rubbed. So I started, okay, this, and then I started to unravel, like the local person who does it here. He has this belief that he can cure vaccines. Like he hasn't gone too far to like he can cure COVID, but he's out there. He has the same kind of. It's like being a whatchamacallit, he's a lightweight. He doesn't push the
It's
stuff
like being
too far.
a snake oil salesman, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm really
but
torn
the
about
thing
the
I've noticed
chiropractic. I'm torn about the chiropractic. I understand that there are some outlandish claims that they make. However, like I've been to the chiropractor and I felt good for the day. Yeah, I enjoy having my back, like, you know, a little backy cracky or whatever they call it. But I think they do make claims that are dangerous. And I think that you have to be really careful and keep your expectations really low and avoid the ones who are making claims that they're going to cure certain conditions. I think I view it very similarly to how I would view massage therapy or something like in that nature. Something that could give you some temporary relief, but definitely not the same as seeing an actual specialist or something for your serious back problem.
Yeah, I would sooner.
That's. I'm sorry. Before Dan, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But the problem here for me was that in Norway we are generally liberal. You know, we have like free healthcare and like it's liberal. But
hey, don't rub it in. All right.
Grandiose. Yeah, and most of them they have to have kind of a physical therapy kind of thing, which helps. Like if you have a massage, if you have to rub out the muscles, you have to stuff like that, and then they add in the chiropractic because this is what helps, and it's like it's really sneaky. And I checked up on the actual degrees and what you have to do in Norway to get it. And they said you have to go out of the country because it's not recognized as medical science.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Oh,
I have quite a bit of experience going to chiropractor for many years.
I get you, and you might feel differently, but I've also read horror stories of people, Erin, who have suffered from medical malpractice from chiropractors because chiropractors were doing things with people's bodies that they should not be doing, and people were tricked under the guise that they were being truly helped for their conditions that they came in for, and I believe that's absolutely wrong. And if there was ever a movement to try to like subsidize like chiropractors and stuff in this country, I probably would not want them to be included in that. You know, I as much as you might get a personal benefit out of it, I don't think there's anything you couldn't get out of like massage therapy or something. But go ahead.
Yeah, I have a lot more respect for somebody who's a registered massage therapist.
Yeah.
I'm going to my background, but I know a lot, and I know them, and they go through a lot of training, and they're not making outlandish claims. They are telling you things like they're trying to give you some relief, and it's not a fix, but like let's try to see if we can make you feel better. And here's some stretches. They're very realistic. In my experience with chiropractors, it's like a few days or a few times going in, they're trying to get me to buy the new pillows, and I'm telling me I'm sleeping incorrectly, and they're, asking me about my diet, and I'm like, this is too far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is mostly due to Dan. You probably know that the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy, that it's
I could
thing, and it's
post ergo prop hoc.
Kind of. Yeah, you know what I mean.
I gotcha.
But
yeah,
I just because I noticed the difference between like how Norway treats stuff like this and how you do in America and the UK. We all have it in our healthcare systems.
Yeah,
but the fact is there is no proper scientific evidence that it actually works, like acupuncture. No. You can't get acupuncture specialist in Norway, and I think in the UK, but mayhaps in the US, in different states perhaps. But it's a
it's not. It's
a kind
mixed.
of religion.
Yeah, it is tied to religion. It is like it was definitely a spiritual belief. Like Palmer thought you had like ghosts in your blood. Like it was like really crazy stuff. And I don't even know if he really believed all of it. But like a lot of the early practitioners saw it as a spiritual practice.
That's right. I forgot about the beginnings of chiropractic. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some old memes from the Facebook. I'm being old dude here, but it was like if you're feeling bad, having a sad day, if you're a woman and you think you're hysterical, you might need cocaine.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
You would probably describe a cocaine and a dildo for like.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Palmer too. Was back at a time where you could just call yourself a doctor and that like you could just kind of get away with that in a small town, I guess too. I'm going to put you on mute for just a bit, because I do want to continue this conversation. I think like it's not something that's talked about as much because there's definitely people who feel kind of differently about it because since they actually go to it and like don't really tie it into like a religious practice too much. But there's others who definitely super tied into it. And also the same people who will practice chiropractors will also practice like Reiki and other kinds of bullshit and stuff. Like if you go to downtown Austin sometime, back when everything's open up, right? You can get a lot of stuff done to your body in this city. Oh my goodness, there's so many things you can get done. You can get hot stones, you can get Reiki, anything. You can get Reiki for your dog. I'm pretty sure I saw that one time. Like there's all kinds of weird pseudo medicine, just BS around here. And to me, in my brain, chiropractors just fit into that. But there's a lot of people in this country who think chiropractors should take a more serious position as healthcare. But in my mind, I don't see it that way. I don't know. But maybe you feel differently, Erin.
No, I think it's fair. I totally think it's fair. My only reason I would say I'm torn is that I genuinely like the feeling of my back cracked, but I like it just as much when my husband does it as when the chiropractor does it. So I don't think there's a lot of science there. I think it's just like, so no, it just kind of feels good. I think that, yeah, I'm just like one of those weird people that likes the way it feels. But I also think that there is not nearly enough skepticism going on about the claims being made coming out of those clinics. And I think that they charge an insane amount and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. I have lots of problems with it.
Yeah. It's problematic. Definitely problematic there. But thanks for calling in about it. It's good. It's good to hear a Norway perspective on the issue. And again, try not to rub in the free healthcare stuff. Okay, that's we're working on it. I think anyway. At least here, Erin, you're good, but down here things are a little bit different.
Yes.
Anyway,
another Canadian. We do have another Canadian calling in.
Okay, yeah.
A little bit of what we were talking about earlier. Would you like to maybe talk to Allison for a minute?
I want to talk to Jared first, actually, because Jared's been waiting for a while.
That's true. Yes. Let's talk to Jared really quick here.
I want to talk to Jared. Jared from Indiana. You've been waiting for a little bit here. What's up?
A long time.
Yeah. Hey, nice to meet you guys or to talk to you, Dan. I've been listening to you for a little bit. Erin, it's the first time I've heard you, so really cool. I've enjoyed it so far.
Awesome.
Yeah, so first off, I want to apologize because it seems like you always get these weirdos that call in and talk about the things that I want to talk about.
So your call is about transhumanism. So if you think that's the weirdest thing, I don't know. I definitely gotten weirder. But every time transhumanism comes up, I feel like it's like, oh yeah, I'm into it, and the caller's into it, but my guest is like not super, doesn't know where to go with it. So I'll play ball with you here.
Let's give it a go. I watched a video on it earlier today, actually, oddly enough. So let's go for it.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know. I didn't know that it was a thing. Like I had thought about it, talked to one of my buddies about it, and he was just like, "Hey, I think that's a thing." So I'm going to be coming at it from a different perspective. Plus, too, I'm bipolar, and so I have a very different way of processing different things.
Okay.
So I personally am of the belief that we are already moving towards transhumanism with pacemakers, with prosthetics. And so when I think of transhumanism, I think of incorporating or using evolving the human species
Yes.
by any means necessary. And so one of the things that like I started thinking about the one time, which I feel like this is a weird thing to be thinking about. But like I was thinking about like birth and like how like coming into existence, and like even like this, like the way that this is the part that I feel super uncomfortable saying, but I'm going to say it anyways. The way that like the sperm is, like the design of the sperm is the same design of the brain and the spinal cord. And so like I was starting to think about like what if like we ended up figuring out like, because like this, so the spinal cord, to my understanding, like you have like the peripheral nervous system that comes off of the spinal that sends signals up to the brain as well. I don't know if I have that completely accurate. Are you aware of what I'm talking about? Or am I
you've got the prefrontal cortex that handles some of the signals there, and you have some other parts of the brain that handle some of the signals there. But you know, I before you go on, I want to echo what you're saying a little bit and reassure you that I don't think what you're saying is totally out of left field. When people talk about transhumanism, I don't think they really realize that you're like what you're saying is absolutely right. We're already making movements towards a transhuman phenomenon. Ever since the first pirate put a peg leg on himself, that was an act of transhumanism right there. Absolutely. And we're doing it all the time, more so and more so every day without even realizing it. You're part of our minds are in our phones right here. And when I tell people that, that sounds really crazy, but if you think about it, all of my contacts, my calendar information, my social media stuff, part of information that I'm trying to keep track of my own brain, I'm storing in a device that's external to myself, but I'm using it as part of myself, which is a transhumanist idea. And that extends even more so when you think about these developments in like, oh, we're trying to put like extra peripherals to our brains to be able to do stuff. You know, people talk about our brains hooking up to the internet and, you know, things like that, or other parts of our body, and pacemakers, like you were talking about too. Like those are all examples of, you know, what could be described as transhumanist technology, this sort of modification there. Now, I'll be honest, you did lose me with the sperm stuff there. So maybe if you could explain that again.
That was
I'm not
more
sure what your point is.
That was more.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Oh, God. Okay. So I was thinking about like the whole evolutionary process of coming out of the water and like growing in different things. And so I started thinking about our evolution. And so it was more of the symbolic of like the way that it looks. Even like your brain and your spinal cord looks like a sperm. And so I was like, if we take the brain and spinal cord and moved it into like a different essentially device, such as like some robot, and you were able to connect your spinal cord and all of like the different receptors to essentially one output, you would be able to relocate your consciousness to a different even device, species, whatever. And like, wouldn't like theoretically you be able to have control because you would be able to tap into all the different parts of your spinal cord that have your nervous system?
Theoretically, yeah. I mean, if what we are is our bodies, and there isn't a soul in us, and that everything that controls who we are is something that's material, and if that material can be replicated with the same success, then yeah, I mean, I think that's possible. Now, of course, there's a lot of questions there as far as the viability of that, whether the phenomenon of consciousness is specific to the structures that we have, whether it needs to be organic in nature, whether it can be replicated in other types of matter, essentially. But you know, people have been talking about this. I mean, this is what transhumanist magazines like put out every week stuff on, right? You know, those kinds of issues that they're interested in. The little stuff I know about you know, consciousness and the brain and how we work, I mean, it is very, you know, a layman's level. I wouldn't be able to be the guy to answer that for you. But if you want my opinion on whether or not that's possible, yeah, definitely. I definitely think that's within the realm of possibility. I would love to have cool robot eyes. I have really bad eyes. I wear contacts every day, and I'm down for some robot eyes. Give it to me. I'll be the first one. Give me that experimental cool surgery. It might be like a Cyclops, like X-Men Cyclops situation, but I'm all right with that. Lasers from my eyes wouldn't be too bad. So
I mean, don't
one.
they already do like retinal transplants? Because they do cataract surgery.
Probably right. Yeah. I mean, I would guess so.
Yeah, I would agree. Being able to see like in like night vision, different things like that, like it would be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure that there's always like the other side, like because I was in the military. I'm sure that there's always the other side of like things being abused. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what like every like I'm thinking of like every single Cyberpunk game that's ever come out has like explored this. Not just the game Cyberpunk, but like you know, Deus Ex and stuff like that. But yeah, it is interesting to think about. I don't know. Was what you want to call was just like, hey, is this pretty cool? Like, I agree. If that's what you want to call about, I think it's pretty cool.
No, like it was. It was. Honestly, I've been listening. Wanted to give a call and say like I really enjoyed the show and find out like your opinion on the piece. And can I say one thing really quick about the chiropractor? Like, is that
give me your hot take on chiropractors, Jared.
Chiropractors.
Give me your hot take. I'm ready.
Okay, cool. So I will be honest. I have never been to a chiropractor in my life. The only chiropractor I have ever met, his wife is an anti-vaxxer oiler. And in my opinion, people like this is not meant to sound shitty by any means. My sister is an anti-vax oiler. I am an atheist gay man. So we do not see eye to eye on a lot of different
things. No.
But okay, so oh yes. So looking at my experience, it seems to be that chiropractors, it's more of it aligns the holistic personal philosophy. I feel like that's been my experience, that it's we can cure you this way. And so I don't know if that's accurate or if that was just my experience. So I think throw that out there.
Yeah.
I would agree with that too. I'm going to go ahead and let you go here, Jared. Thanks for calling us. Appreciate your call about transhumanism and hot takes on chiropractors. But yeah, I would agree. The ones that I have seen, which has mostly been interactions online and in Facebook groups and stuff, is like a holistic approach, a skepticism of quote unquote Western medicine and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I think that tends to fit the mold. So. But Erin, you were quiet on that one. No thoughts on transhumanism?
Well, I don't have any I don't really know what to say about it other than it sounds freaking cool. And like I don't know much more about it. And like you said at the end, like, so are we just talking about how cool it is? Like,
it is
I think
cool.
it's really cool. And like I would take a mechanical organ or whatever. Like I don't have.
Here's the intersection, Erin. Here's the intersection. Because when we were Christians, right, we were taught this idea that our bodies are designed by God and therefore not to be fucked with. Do not fuck with these. And that's why there's such a shame around people who get plastic surgery and people who do these kinds of body mods. Except if you're a woman, earrings are fine, I guess. But
and just like low key plastic surgery and like filler and Botox, like just so you're cute still, but like not
right. If you're the pastor's
don't talk
wife
about it, do it in secret.
yeah, exactly. I don't know, but like, there is this idea that the human body is somehow special and cannot be, it cannot be fucked with, right? Even though we're bipedal, apes who have all kinds of back problems. And
I think I was disillusioned from that idea a long time ago. Like I have an autoimmune disease and I was diagnosed when I was like a young teenager. So like, I don't know how my faith didn't fall apart earlier, because it's like, I'm definitely not intelligently designed. My immune system is trying to kill me. So it's like, I don't know. I'd take a new organ any day. Well, I don't care where you grow it, like, or make it out of, you can 3D print me some new organs. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I would be interested in seeing how those 3D print. I think they've done that already, right? Haven't they? 3D
I think they have actually. Honestly, I think they've 3D printed like heart valves and that sort of thing.
That's
right. Mine's
rad.
a little too complicated. Mine's like a whole digestive system, so I don't know if they've mapped that out yet.
Maybe not, but probably in our lifetimes. I don't know. That's really interesting to think about.
Let's hope. Yeah, let's hope.
Want to get to our next caller here? You wanted to talk to Allison from Canada.
I did want to hear from Allison.
All right, let's talk to Allison from Canada. Allison, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hey, Dan. Hi, Erin. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. Talking about chiropractors, 3D organs, and transhumanism. Just another episode of Truth Wanted. So what's up with you, Allison?
That sounds really cool. Just a warning, it is storming where I am right now. It was hailing earlier, like golf ball sized hail. It was wild. It was like smashing against the window. And I'm like, oh my God, please don't break. Please don't break. But it's calmed down now, but it's still lightning and stuff. So hopefully it won't interfere with the connection that we have right now. So
No worries.
I am really
No worries. We'll figure it out. And if we need to reconnect, we can, but we are about 20 minutes out from the show. So we'll see what we can do. If we can't answer now, just a reminder, folks, we always have the Discord in the after show where you can ask us some questions there. So anyway, a quick plug for that. Allison, what do you got for us?
Okay, so I've just been having a really hard time with all of the news, with all of the children, the Aboriginal children that have been found. Like, I honestly I had no idea how bad it was, how things were going, because the information was always kept from me. Like, it was always like the secret of the family that nobody really talks about, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, to give you some clarity, I was born in actually close to an army base. My dad was in the army and he was European, and my mom, like, I guess I have no idea where like the Métis started getting like whitewashed with the French and English, and I have no idea. But when I was born, I was just, called white. I'm Caucasian, I'm European, I'm right. So, and then my brother was born, and then my dad got posted a few times, and we ended up in Calgary. Actually, we ended up in Regina first, and school there, I was just having such a hard time, and I never could figure out why. But I was being programmed. I was being whitewashed. Like, we used to pray and sing the Canadian national anthem every morning in that school. And I always thought it was odd because I didn't grow up in a religious home at all. Like, my parents were not interested in religion at all. And my mom, she actually, if something was going wrong, she'd be like, Jesus Christ, or oh my God, or whatever. Like, those phrases were really like loosely used in the house. But I like learned they were kind of swears, so I didn't say those much as a kid. But when we left Saskatchewan and we went to Alberta, we lived in an army base. It was like we call them PMQs. They're like private quarters and stuff. And that was actually stolen Native land that the Canadian Army stole to like house us. And then there was like a work base there too. And I had no idea. And so I went to a military school. So might as well just call it a whitewashing school.
Allison, did you feel like there was sorry. Did you feel like there was like a huge disconnect for you, like growing up, kind of just assumed into like the common culture, but you didn't maybe like have that connection to your Indigenous background through your mom's side? Did you feel like there was maybe like some disconnect there, and as an adult now you're learning about these things and you're kind of like, wow, this actually is like where my family's from, but we don't know about it.
Yeah, we don't know about it, and to be safe, we hid it. So it's like
I think that happened a lot for a lot of families. Step back a generation or two, and there was a lot of fear put into a lot of people, right? And then you get to like the next generation, and there's no talk of it. I would really encourage you, if you're interested, to like find other people in your community that maybe like even where you are now, and just do some research about it, and maybe start some of your own like kind of reconstruction of like learning about where your Indigenous family is from and learning a little bit of that. I think it's been a really healing experience for a lot of people who weren't able to, they'd had that ability to learn their own culture taken away from them. Reach out to people, or maybe even reach out to other family members of yours and see if anybody wants to talk about it, or if there's anything they can teach you. I think it can be really a fascinating experience for you. And I'm sorry that happened to you and your family.
Yeah. To echo that experience, Allison, I'm a quote unquote victim of the Texas public education system, right? So like, my experience about learning about Native issues and stuff probably wasn't much better than what you fared. In fact, the history of Indigenous populations in Texas and interactions with colonialists is unfortunately a really violent one. There's only a handful of reservations actually in the state of Texas, despite the largeness of the state, because of that history there. And there was a narrative that was definitely taught to me that, oh, well, these tribes of people, they were constantly fighting each other. So, there was always a violence there, which is such a horrible characterization and justification for, the colonization of a people. One, pretending like white Europeans haven't been trying to kill each other forever. But beyond that is also just, it's a whitewashing of a history there of a group of people that I never got to hear them really talk about their own stories. And the first time I was really exposed to that, I've told this particular story before. I was 17 and did a mission trip to Oregon, and went to a land there for a mission work, which I now look back at and really see the irony of that. Thankfully, we weren't really like preaching so much as we were just doing kind of service projects and stuff. But that was really my first time opening my eyes to these issues and seeing what I was really missing out on. Like I didn't have any Native classmates. I didn't have people who I could really talk to about it. But for a week, I was exposed to that and realized, wow, I've never seen this representation in my media before. I've never seen other people talk about these, the issues that these people face every day still, like just with issues with voting, issues with having their own acceptance in the communities abroad. Like there's just a whole lot of stuff that still goes on. And this is particular to the United States, that I wish people talked about more. And also just like the craziness that in the year, what was this? This was just in the 2000s there was still like a white kid going on to a reservation to do missionary work, as if like me, a 17-year-old, could help like fix a community's problems through the gospel of Jesus Christ or something, like, which is just an absolutely absurd thing to think about. So I do look at that with regret, but also with humility, and also with the gratefulness that I could get something from that now. But now I still think, like, wow, there's still people who have that mindset that we can just go to other people's places of living and fix them through some magic. That's really what it is. And still really frustrating for me. But anyway, I had you on mute there, Alice. I'm unmuting you now if you want to respond.
Oh, okay. You only know what you know, Dan, and don't be hard on yourself, And one thing that I want to point out is that I pass as white. Like I look white. I've got pale skin and blonde hair and all of that. So and then my mom, she was always like perfect with everything, like with clothes and stuff. Everything was all planned out, decorations, everything to make it look as white as possible, so we wouldn't be found.
I've heard that a lot.
My mom even went as far as didn't put us in what do you call it, daycare or preschool. She didn't work. She stayed home. She like absolutely made sure that me and my brother weren't going anywhere, and we weren't going to be taken to a residential school. And I didn't know about it, and like I just really appreciate all the effort that she did for me. And then I talked with my dad, And, you know, we had a conversation too. And so it's just been really, really hard because I've been living a lie. You know, I just feel like I've been living a lie this whole time. I've been pretending to be white so I wouldn't be found and so I would get proper medical attention. Like, if I would have said I was, you know, Métis when I went into the hospital for a blood clot, yeah, I'm in Canada, but I probably wouldn't have gotten as good as medical care as I did claiming that I'm white. And that is so tragic. It's such a tragic reality, you know, and it's like I go out and I see the transit police and the regular police, they're harassing Indigenous people all the time. And it's like, yes, sometimes they are drunk, but then sometimes there's other medical issues. Like one can be in diabetic shock and that looks like you're drunk. And they all get treated the same. They all get stereotyped into we're just a bunch of drunks that can't be helped, you know? And it's all this intergenerational trauma.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there's so many things for everyone to learn, and there's so many different traumas going on, and I'm really sorry that and even having this come up for you, I'm sure it's very painful. I'm sure that you're already feeling some of the grief as you're kind of learning these things, and it'll probably keep coming. And like I said, I just encourage you to reach out, and I know that even the government of Canada, and like there's been a few programs put out there for people who are struggling with this, and just definitely get connected and don't just go through this on your own, because I think it's been a shock for a lot of people inside and outside the Indigenous communities. So thank you so much for calling in and sharing your story with us.
Yes, thank you so much.
I
think we're going to get to our last call this evening?
You know, I don't know if we have enough time for this one. I think this one, William from Indiana, if you want to talk to us later on the Discord, you can. And I feel bad because I know there was at least another caller in here that called last week that we still didn't get to this time.
Oh, shoot.
But thank you to everybody who has been calling into the show. Really do appreciate everybody tonight and just the wonderful perspectives that you guys have been bringing to the table, especially with such a heavy topic tonight. I'm really glad that we get to talk about this and see the intersections there. But anyway, folks, this is usually right when I start to plug our special guest, but I do have a special announcement with our guest for tonight. So as most of you know who follow the show, I have mostly been the sole host of Truth Wanted for the majority of its runtime. Recently, in the past few months, we've picked up Puck, who has also been a rotating host of this show, which has been great. But we have another rotating host who's going to be joining us for future episodes, and that's going to be ExXtian Erin. So if you like Erin's work and you like what she's doing on here, well, then I got good news for you, because she will be taking over on a couple Fridays as well to see where that goes. So congratulations, Erin, and really going to happy to see what you do with the show.
Oh, thanks, Dan. Thanks for that welcome. I'm really excited to be working with this show. I've always loved this show. It was one of my very first things that I did on the in my atheist activism, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. And I can't wait. And I hope it's okay. I hope I do okay.
Yeah. So just so right now, it's going to be just like it's been before. I'm still doing most of the shows. Aaron, you're going to be coming in once in a while. Puck's still coming in once in a while.
Time off.
Just a little bit there. Yeah. And it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to see what you do with it, like I said. So folks, get ready for when that happens. But until then, I do have some other things to tell you about, which is thank you to everybody who supports this show on patreon.com/truthwanted. You guys are the rock stars that donate to this show and make this thing happen. We just got the green screen's looking better. It's not perfect. It's getting there. I got a new camera on the way that's going to be good. I need some more lights still. All that stuff is being paid for by you guys, the guys that donate to this show. So thank you guys for doing it, guys and girls and non-binary folks and everybody that donates. You guys are awesome. I still say it, you guys, but you know what I mean. With that, there's other ways you can support this show too. You can donate through YouTube, through our YouTube membership, and donate to the little fundraiser there button as well. If you donate and become a member of this channel, you get cool little emoticons and stuff. That's really fun. It's got my face on them, and we should get some of the other hosts' face on there too. I just realized that we need to make that happen. There's other ways you can support the show too. You can buy merch. We got a link for that in the description as well. We got hats, hoodies, masks, all kinds of wonderful things for you to adorn yourselves with. So look into that if you haven't already. You should definitely like and subscribe and find this show and give it 5 stars or leave a comment, whatever you want to do to help give support there. That helps too. But this show is part of the AEN Podcast Network, where other shows like Talk Heathen and Atheist Experience, nonprofits, all the good stuff happen as well. So you should check those shows out if you haven't already. You should also check out our Facebook fan group. The Truth Wanted fan group is really fun and has really funny posts on there sometimes. So you guys should look at that if you haven't already. And you should also check us out in the Discord right after this show here. It's going to be us talking and answering your Qs, and we'll have some A's for you as well. And last but never, ever, Aaron, ever not least, I have to thank the wonderful, fantastic crew that makes this show happen every single week. Thank you, crew. Look at that crew. And there's a cat. There's a cat that helps out too, apparently. Look at multiple cats. So many cats that help out this show. Thanks, everybody, for making this show happen. And Erin, thank you for hosting with me today. Appreciate your company.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Any words of wisdom you want to give before we wrap up tonight's show?
Always keep wanting the truth.
What? Hey, wait a minute. That's mine. I haven't copyrighted it yet, but maybe I should, huh? I think you kind of get that by default. I think if you say it and it's on record. Anyway, now I got to say it again. It's going to be really awkward. So you did that to me. Thanks, Erin. Appreciate it. Anyways, folks, this has been Truth
On 3.
Wanted.
Ready?
You want to do it with me at the same time? All right, we'll do it. Folks, thanks again for watching Truth Wanted. Remember to always keep wanting the truth. This does not work. This does not work. Oh my goodness.
It's bad.
This does not work. Well, you close it out this time, Erin. I'll give you the privilege. Go ahead.
Okay, so for the third time.
Yep.
Have a great evening, and always remember to always keep wanting the truth.
And we'll see.